Hey folks, how's it going? All right, so the title of today's video is Fooling Around Finding Out with Chord Scales. And I chose that title because it's a kind of a good MO for how I think about theory. And that is to say, I just like messing around with stuff. I like coming up with melodies, trying to find new colors to add to songs that I played a million times. And that's to me what makes it exciting. When I sit down and practice, it just seems like there's always something new to try. So if you haven't really got into chord scales, I'm just going to give you a bit of a demonstration of how I work on them. And I'll just say that in teaching this for a long time, and I've read a lot of guitar forums, there's a sentiment that chord scales are kind of overwhelming, and I think a lot of people get bogged down with them. But some ways to overcome that, okay? Just if you're just sort of starting out with this stuff. And one is I would, whatever music you like, whatever kind of music you play, even if you don't know a lot of different songs, try to take what you do know, the songs you do know, and move them to as many, if not all, the keys that you can. So you need to know your neck. And that's a really good and fun way to do that. So, I mean, learn the melodies all over the neck, solo over the chord changes all over the neck, voice the chords all over the neck. So you really need that to be agile enough to use this kind of stuff, what we're going to get into today. So beyond that, just a general understanding of intervals, and intervals segue into chords. Chords are several intervals, and then the extensions on chords, which also correlates with intervals, so like the 9s, 11s, and 13s. So when we talk about chord scales, literally it's a chord. You have the chord tones and then the other notes, the 9s, 11s, and 13s. So the names that are applied to chord scales are just names to, it's like assigning names to a combination of certain tensions. So for example, Lydian, you could look at it like it's the chord tones of a dominant 7 with 9, 11, and 13. Lydian is the chord scales of, or the chord tones of major 7 with 9, sharp 11, 13. And then there's more exotic ones too, but the point is that whatever chord you're playing, whatever style it is, there's a fixed number of notes, which are notes in the chord, and then like what do you do with those other notes? So chord scales is one way to deal with that. I'm going to break down the chords by type, and I'm not going to do all the chords today, but I'll do major and major 7s. So one way I like to work on them is just starting with a drone and just kind of literally noodling around with them. So I'm going to do that. Here's a pretty cool vamp that I've been using. So we've got a C pedal going. So if I wanted to work on chord scales over a C chord, the first thing I might do is just start getting the chord tones under my hands and in my ears. Move it all over the neck. So those are the notes in C major 7. 3rd, 7, 5, 3, root. So with the other notes, if I'm just thinking C major, the natural 11 going down to the 3rd, or going up to the 5th, the 9 going down to the root, the 7 going up to the root. So I start getting those into my ears. Then I'll start to add the color notes of a scale. So for major, that's natural 11. Natural 11, it's F in this case. Okay, so if I want to expand on that in major, I can outline any other chord in the C major scale. So I could do D minor. Okay, I could use E minor. F major 7. Oops, sorry. G7. So you try to make them not sound so obvious like an arpeggio. So I'm still emphasizing the notes in a G7 over top, but still using passing notes. But the C tonality underneath still keeps it sounding like C, because the ear hears the lowest note and hears all the other notes on top. So if I use A minor, B half diminished. Okay, so some of those have the color note in it, the F, and others don't. So then I can just put different structures together. So C major 7, F, G7, okay, now I could change the scale, because C or C major 7 is common to C Lydian. So all I have to change is one note, which is the F has to go up to F sharp, which is the sharp 11. So I'm just kind of noodling around with the notes in C Lydian. Because of that drone, again, it provides the support that I don't have to work hard to make it sound like C Lydian. I can also use secondary chords from C Lydian, so neighboring chord would be D7. The neighboring chord below, B minor 7. Okay, I could use F sharp half diminished, so that's got the sharp 4 in it. G major 7. Okay, so by going through all of this, going over and over and over again, like I could sit there and jam on a scale for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. And by the end, I really start to get the sound of it, and I get control of all the secondary chords in it. And then I could actually move it around to different keys. And that's how you get control of this stuff. That's how you make it conversational. So when you learn something, you want to learn it to the point where it just comes out. And if you're jamming or improvising, you don't have to think too hard about it because you've done enough repetition where it just comes out. And it's about speaking the language, and it's more about hearing the colors. If you can hear the colors, you know where to put them. Okay? So I'm going to switch to playing in a chord sequence. Okay? And the chord sequence I have programmed is in the key of E, and the chords are E major, C sharp minor 7, F sharp minor, and then B7 flat 9. So it's just 4 chords, okay? And all of the chords pretty much are in the key of E. It's just the last one, because of the tension, it has a note out of the key. So that's one that I have to highlight if I'm going to make this work. I can't, the C sharp's going to be hard to reconcile with that. It's not that you can't do it. It's just, if I want it to sound smooth, I'm going to want to hit that C note. So if you don't know what chord scale right away to put over a given chord, here's a good tip. If the chord is relatively, like it's related to the key, but it's not you haven't modulated, take the chord tones, and then as far as the extensions, use the ones that are from the key that you're in. So in this case, B, D sharp, F sharp, A, and C are the chord tones. So that leaves the 11 and 13. So natural 11 would make the most sense, so that's E. And natural 13 makes the most sense because that's G sharp. Those are both notes in the key. So the reason being that the more notes that you change from the original key, the more that you draw attention to those notes. That's not a bad thing. It's just how you want to how you want to approach it, and it's also subjective to the context that you're in. So just know that the more notes you change, the more attention you draw to it. The less notes you change, the smoother it's going to sound. Okay, so here's the chord sequence. Just a slow jam. E major, C sharp minor 7, F sharp minor, B7 flat 9. So I'm gonna start with just mostly E stuff. So there's the C on the B7. That's all E major. There's the sharp 11. I have to go back to natural 11. Lydian. Okay, so in closing, you got to spend time with this, and one way to make things efficient is to practice soloing on each type of chord. So that would include major, minor, augmented, diminished, the triads. And for seventh chords, major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, half diminished. If you can solo on each of those chords and you have a few different chord scale options, that puts you in really good shape so that when you're playing a song, you're able to execute this stuff. And when you're playing, like, focus on, like, what does sharp 11 sound like on a major chord? What does flat 9 sound like on a dominant chord? What does natural 13 sound like on a minor chord? So all of those things, try to create jams that are fun. You can do one chord jams and then maybe put it into some sequence. Okay, so if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe to this channel. And I actually teach a course on this. So if you go to my website, here it is here, and you go to the course menu. So in the pull down list, the second one from the top, it's the chord scale one. So if you click that, it's basically the sign up is automated. So I do one-on-one live lessons on chord scales. And so what I aim to do when I'm with a student is try to get to know the kind of music that you like and get a sense of where you are at and try to frame it in a way that is relevant to you. So, and yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you soon.